Hello, welcome to the first year MCA course of Guru Nanak Institute of Technology, Kolkata. I'm Dr. Indrajit Bose and I shall be your course coordinator for this session. This paper is entitled Business Communication with a paper code of HU101. In the course of this paper, we are taking a look at the various forms, modes, and genres of communication, especially in the workplace context in the business world today. All of you are aware that once you pass out of this course, you will be joining the industry, and there you will have to interact with clients, customers, vendors, and other people on a day to day basis. So you will be involved in various exchanges with them in order to carry on business transactions. So the way in which these interactions will be carried on, the context in which they will be carried on, and the manner and mode of interaction is what we shall be focusing on in the course of our lectures and deliberations in this paper. Sorry. This lecture is lecture 4 in the series and is based on practical communication skill. In the course of this lecture, I shall be focusing on the meeting of business needs on a day-to-day basis. This is a question, of course, of interaction in a practical situation, meeting daily needs. So, how to interact, the modes of interaction which are followed in the workday world is what should be the focus of our attention, including all about business calls, the making and receiving of these calls, involving a great deal of interaction with clients and customers, also the sending of emails and faxes, together with video conferencing, which is one of the important ways of remote interaction with clients, colleagues, customers, and others. So these are some of the modes of day-to-day communication in the workplace, which I shall be focusing on in the course of our lecture today. Now, to begin with, we are going to take a look at business telephony. Obviously, the reason for business telephony being there at all and the important place that it has is the need for a face-to-face interaction with clients, customers, vendors, and others. Obviously, these are calls of an important nature as far as carrying on business or daily needs is concerned. So it is business and always business which comes first. And you know that all the time it's not possible to bridge the distance with clients, customers, and others because of physical distances, time constraints, and other things. So, one of the best ways to have a direct interaction is, of course, to dial their number. So, business interactions are taking place over the phone, and the phone is always busy in the workplace. So, obviously, it's all about carrying on business, which comes first and always the most important prerogative in the business world. So the telephony that deals with the placing of orders, receiving of orders, or making customer complaints and dealing with service issues, these are all the sum total of the calls that we make in business telephony. There is, of course, a taxonomy of calls, which we shall be looking at, and the giving and receiving of information, passing on of messages, transfers of information, and of course, the courtesy that is a part and parcel of this business telephony. So, we shall be talking about all this. So, let us begin. Now, why are business calls made? Obviously, to transact business. Often, there is a promotion of goods and services, which is basic to these calls. How many calls have you received from your service provider like Vodafone, Airtel, or others talking about the latest offers, promotions, and discounts that are made from time to time? I'm sure you must have received a lot of these. So, very often, one of the easiest ways to interact with prospective customers and clients is just to make a phone call. Remember that the customer is just a phone call away. But of course, often people are busy or preoccupied with other things, so they may not have the requisite time or attention to devote. So it's important that you are able to capture their interest and attention first. So promotions via the phone lines are very important and an easy way of reaching out across to the customers. Equally important, of course, is an after sales follow up. Again, you must have received calls after you bought your last geyser or your home appliance, or let us say your vacuum cleaner or washing machine, asking you about the performance of the product. Yes, you must have received many of these calls in which you were asked to give a rating about the performance, asked whether you found the purchase procedure convenient or not, asked whether you have any difficulties or not. So it's a kind of feedback, automated feedback, which is taken by companies often from customers to get their reactions after purchasing the product and also to show their concern and connectedness with the customer. Also, we have the making of customer complaints, which also is an aspect of customer feedback. Very often, customers do ring up to complain or to register their complaints about products which they have purchased or services which they have taken. Though this is a matter of distress often, as far as the companies are concerned, obviously, but of course, this is a very important part of the relationship between the company and the customer because the company has to take care of the customer from the time that they purchase the product to the time that the customer takes the product home and uses it. If you are a company with any people concerns at all, then you will be concerned about your customer. And a proof of that concern is a meticulous following up of the after sales follow up or complaints made by the customers. You have to attend to complaints, or often, if you are the customer, obviously you'll be making the complaints. So again, calls are made for these reasons. Again, a lot of troubleshooting help also is given to customers and others via the phone lines. So very often, you may have dialed the toll-free number which you are given for customer assistance, and you are given instructions on how to deal with this problem via the phone. So again, dealing with customers is a part of offering this troubleshooting help by the companies, and they need to use all their patience, the clarity of instructions, and consideration for the customer and his or her problems when they attend to this troubleshooting issue. So these are some of the basic reasons why business calls are made, and they are attended to all the time. So the phone is continuously ringing and customers may be interacting and you may be at the receiving end. So you will have to pick up the call and attend to the customer. Now, obviously, if we try to classify the call types, there are various calls, both incoming and outgoing. Among the incoming calls, we may have inquiries about products and services, offers and promotions, and the fixing of appointments or business appointments, together with registering of complaints and grievances. For outgoing calls, we have inquiries about products and services, the sales and after sales follow up, making arrangements, and handling of complaints. So, if we do a meticulous classification, then this is the way that we can divide the nature of the different business calls. Now, each business call, however brief it might be, follows certain stages or they are structured in a certain way. At first, there is an opening in which we have a greeting and self-introduction. For example, if you are receiving the call, you will hear maybe somebody say that, hello, is this Axis Bank? This is Amit calling from the GNIT office. So, greeting followed by self-introduction and making an inquiry. After the greeting and self-introduction comes the rapport building part, in which the caller identifies his or her need. For example, this person might say, I'd like to speak to Mr. Deven Roy, please. Then the subject is stated, and of course, one has to be very concise. I'm calling about the discrepancy in the account statement, for example. So, very precise and brief, to the point. After that, when the business is transacted, now the call needs to be ended. So, before ending, there's a rounding off just in order to be polite. So, thank you for your help. Thank you for the information given. Thank you for attending. And then the final close. Goodbye for now or bye. So these are some of the stages of business calls. And as I have said, the calls themselves might be pretty short, but they do follow the structured pattern. And this is what we have to keep in mind when we both make and receive business calls. Now, the etiquette about making phone calls and receiving them is very, very important because courtesy is a primal consideration in attending and making business calls. What all does this phone etiquette cover? For example, when you are involved in mentioning people's names, of course, it is quite important to refer to them by their names, and that too, you have to be very correct about their pronunciation. Often there might be pronunciation difficulties with unfamiliar names, whether they be Indian or foreign. But of course, you need to verify that you are pronouncing the customer's names correctly because, of course, it is quite discourteous to mispronounce somebody's name. And if you are doing that and if you are corrected, obviously you have to ask for pardon. Then asking whether the person is available to talk at that point of time, again, is a matter of elementary courtesy. So you will hear people saying, is this a good time to talk to you? Are you available now? Is this a nice time for you to talk? Or may I speak to you now? If you find that the person is not available, then you can offer to ring back later. Okay, then I'll call you back later after some time. Or can I call you back later? Please do call me back at 3 o'clock. And you can leave a message. Please take a message, or I'd like to leave a message for Mr. Roy. Would you ask him to please ring me back at 3 p.m.? So If you find that the person is engaged, you might leave a message with a request for a follow-up call to be made later, or you might yourself make the follow-up call after some time, checking for that person's availability. Again, when you are speaking on the call, it's very important that you speak slowly and clearly. Pronounce each word properly. Don't swallow up your words. Don't mumble. Be clear and precise when you speak on the phone. See that all your words are clearly audible and understandable on the other side. Sometimes you might have to put the caller on hold when you are transferring the call. So again, it is courteous at that point of time to ask for that person's permission before you put the call on hold. So you will find that people do ask when they are transferring that I would be transferring the call now to Mr. Roy. Would you please hold on for a minute? Or please hold on for a minute while I put you through to Mr. Roy. But of course, it is not advisable to make customers or to make callers wait for too long before you transfer the call. So you might find that the person who is attending the call comes back to you and says, I'm sorry, the line is engaged, or Mr. Roy appears to be very busy at the moment. So could you please call back later after 1 hour, or can I call you back after half an hour? So this is again very important because people have busy work schedules. So an excessively long waiting time before the call is transferred might create problems. Of course, when you are once again connecting the call, tell the customer that you are doing so, give that information, and thank the customer for holding on. Say, thank you for your patience. I'm putting you through now. Again, there might be problems in hearing or understanding on the phone. So if the message is not clear, then please do ask for repetitions. Don't just sit down and be contented with whatever you have heard if you haven't heard it properly. Because again, there might be misunderstandings and problems which might arise because of that. So please ask for the repetitions of the message by saying, could you please come again? I didn't catch what you were saying. Could you please repeat what you said last time? I'd like to hear that once again, please. Could you please come again? Again, your tone when you are attending to calls should be very, very polite and cordial. The customer or the client should get the impression that you are very cordial, cheerful, and enthusiastic in receiving the call. Often or at times, it might happen that the caller is rude or impatient. We always have to face certain situations in which there is discourtesy from customers. At that point of time, it is important not to lose your patience. Be very, very tactful, empathize. I'm sorry, you say, I'm sorry for the troubles that you are being put through, but could you please tell me once again what is the precise nature of your problem, or how may I help you with that? So do empathize with the problems that the customer is going through, but don't get irritated or annoyed if the customer is annoyed. Be very, very specific and ask for specific details so that you can deal with the problem. Or if you cannot deal with the problem, give the customer the relevant information so that the problems can be dealt with. And remember to always thank at the end of the call. Thank you for calling. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye. And so on. Now, the tone and pace of your speech when you attend to the call are very, very important. Show that you are alert, wide awake, and ready to respond. Put a smile in your voice. The customer can always hear that. And use a natural tone of voice when you are speaking on the phone. Try to use simple language as far as possible because the use of unnecessary jargon can confuse scholars. Talk at a moderate pace, but try to vary the volume and tone of your voice as you speak. The tonal variation or variety on the phone can be a pleasant experience for the customer, and that is what, after all, you are trying to get at. So be natural sounding, be polite, be courteous, and be enthusiastic when you are attending to calls. So these are a few points to keep in mind regarding business telephone. Now, I would like to talk about another important aspect of day-to-day practical communication in the workplace context, and that is the sphere of business meeting. Now, you know that often you may be involved in intra or interdepartmental meetings at the workplace, and these meetings are indispensable discussion forums where we meet to talk about problems and issues and try to look for tentative solutions about various problems. So these are important areas for decision making and for discussion and for meeting and pooling of ideas and resources between people at the workplace. Of course, these meetings are places where people get connected. The meetings bring ideas and people together, and the pooling of ideas or the creative interchange of ideas is very, very important, especially in the tackling of various problems in the workplace which might crop up from time to time. And of course, a lot of work is always on the cards. A lot of projects are taking place all the time, and they have to be dealt with, and various decisions have to be taken. So, the holding of meetings at periodic intervals becomes an indispensable necessity. Of course, meetings are rather formalized, so they need to be organized properly. There is a lot of paperwork that is involved. Before you convene the meeting, you need to prepare the point by point agenda of the items to be discussed in the meeting. And it is customary to issue a formal notice or announcement of the holding of the meeting, mentioning the date, the time, and the venue of the meeting, and the people who are required to be present. Of course, formally, we used to give people notifications by sending them a letter or a notice about the meeting. Nowadays, it is mostly emails which we receive informing us of meetings to be held, carrying the agenda of items as an attachment. So before the meeting, circulation of the notice and agenda to the people who shall be attending is very, very important. And after the meeting is held, the circulation of the minutes of the meeting again becomes very important. So meeting minutes have to be prepared based on the notes which are taken when the meeting is in progress, and these minutes have to be handed out after the meeting is over, or maybe some days after the meeting is over, to the people who attended the meeting or maybe who could not attend the meeting. So these are part of the whole procedure of convening the meeting and of preserving the records of what went on in the meetings. Because of course, we have to refer back, or we may need to refer back after some time to the decisions which we have made based on the interactions which we had in the meeting, or we may refer back to the ideas which were pulled together in the specific meetings which we are referring to. So once again, the importance of this paperwork is readily apparent to us. Now, the minutes of the meetings are fairly detailed, and they give us a record of what actually happened in the meeting, mentioning the date, time, and place, the members present, absent, and a point-by-point record of the events which took place in the meeting, and the discussions made, the ideas put forward by the members, the debates and concerns which were raised in the meeting, and all the decisions that were taken. Even the date of the next tentative meeting is mentioned at the end of the minutes. So the minutes are crucial in preserving the record of what went on in the meetings, and we need to preserve them, circulate them, and prepare them with the utmost care. Apart from meetings, of course, the other important item which is circulated or which is a means of interaction with others nowadays is the sending and receiving of emails or electronic mails. So they are most common and widespread in their use in the business world, and they have a global coverage because it is the most important means of staying connected with anybody across any part of the world by just sending or receiving an email. So you may have customers in Vladivostok in Russia, or in Atlanta in Georgia in the United States, or in Singapore or in Hong Kong. But the easiest way of reaching out across them is by sending an email. So they are global in their coverage, worldwide in their connectivity, and they have an extremely large network base. You can send mails to multiple recipients at the same time at a very low cost. So they are much more economic compared to other means of communication, particularly the sending of letters and hard copy parcels. Also, they are convenient because there are multimedia attachments, and large files can be sent as attachments. So if you have documents or data which is waiting to be shipped off or to be sent to other people around the world, one of the easiest ways of reaching out across them is by sending an email with attachments. And of course, the delivery time is extremely short. The sending of letters or parcels takes a lot of time. If I'm sending a letter to New York, for example, it might take a week or even longer than that in order to reach its destination. Whereas if I send an email, it's just transferred at the click of a mouse, and the other person at the other end can access it at the immediate point of time at which I'm sending it. So emails are extremely useful and a quick means of communicating with customers, clients, and others. They are fast, they are user friendly, and they can be used to send large attachments. So they have a large resource base with lots of customers and other people being connected by sending multiple attachments or multiple mails to all of them at the same time. So they are extremely useful, interactive means of staying connected with customers, clients, and others. The other important means of practical communication in the workplace is the sending of faxes, which is short for facsimile. It is also called telecopying or telefax, which involves basically a telephonic transmission of the scanned or printed material, both text and images. In fact, what happens is that the phone is connected to the printer and gives us a printed paper copy of the documents which we want to be faxed. It's widespread in its use and importance in the business world, especially for business documents which need to be transferred. Particularly, we might need to send across deeds, agreements, or other important papers of collaboration with a signed copy of the document. So obviously, faxing it across is one of the most easiest and convenient means of sending it to our prospective clients or partner or collaboration people with whom we are interacting. In the fax template, it is easy to add the customer's name, the company name, and the fax and phone number in the left-hand column. And of course, we write the subject in the subject line and write your company's name, fax, and phone number in the right-hand column. Of course, we need to itemize the number of pages we are sending and put in the date, and in CC, write down the recipient's names and company names with the message at the bottom, and printed text is always preferred. So fax is one of the most convenient ways of sending across paper copy documents, which we need to send to other people, and it is widespread in its use in the business world. There is one more element of practical communication, which is video conferencing, which makes remote connections and bridges geographical distances with customers, clients, and others. It is a direct means of interacting, and you can actually talk and even see the other person with whom you are having the video conference. So I shall be talking briefly about video conferencing now. Now, in video conferencing, we have management employee interactions across multiple locations. So I might have interactions through video conference with my colleagues in New Delhi, in Mumbai, as well as in Singapore. And travel costs are thereby reduced and decision making is speeded up. So it also helps in various ways in having meetings and discussions, conducting interviews, and even in providing cost efficient training. It enables virtual project management as well. So suppose there is a project which I'm involved in with my partners in Singapore, so I can have a periodic meeting via video conference to discuss about the progress of the project, and we can monitor the progress in this way. It is also a means for conducting interviews. So let us say that there is an interview for the New Delhi office of my company which needs to be conducted, and there are prospective candidates from various locations in India. So calling them up to the Delhi office might involve a lot of time and travel costs because the candidates will have to travel by train or by air from various parts of India, and they will have to stay over there. So again, that is costly and troublesome. So an easy way of conducting the interview is to have a video conference interview by which all the candidates from different physical locations will be able to attend, and they don't need to spend anything by means of travel costs. They don't have to travel anywhere at all. So this is an extremely speedy and efficient way of conducting interviews and a way of reducing or cutting travel costs and expenses. How to prepare for the video conference? Prepare a list of key points, anticipate questions in advance, and give a lot of detailed briefing in advance. Respond to questions quickly and clearly, and keep your responses brief as far as possible. And try to be focused when you are discussing anything in the video conference. In the opening, if you have a number of panelists, please do greet and introduce the panelists one by one, project a positive image, and start the discussion by raising important issues. When you have the actual discussion taking place, taking turns is important, and please avoid interruptions from the other side when you are discussing something. Listen carefully and make encouraging gestures and then make responses. Try to avoid disagreements among your panelists, though this is likely to happen at some point of time. Try to intervene and settle the issues amicably as far as possible, and keep the discussions pleasant and going on all the time. Keep the discussion flowing, keep the participants engaged, and keep the interest level. Try to sustain that as far as possible, because remember that other people might also be tuning in and listening to your discussion. When you have the ending part of the video conference, then try to sum up the key points and refer to the meeting outcomes. And remember to courteously thank all the panelists at the end of the discussion. So these are a few points regarding the video conference. And it is important that we hold the conference in an interesting way, raise the important issues, be prepared before the conference, because you will be cashing in on your and other people's time when you hold the conference. So remember to keep the discussions focused, and that you need to do the necessary homework before having the video conference, so that you do not waste anybody's time in unnecessary parlaying or discussion which could be saved, which if you had advanced preparation. So a lot of advanced preparation, planning, and homework goes into the making of a successful video conference. So this brings us to the close of our discussion on the various issues of practical communication on a day-to-day basis in the workplace. So in my lecture today, I have spoken about the sending and receiving of emails, the making and receiving of business calls, sending of faxes, and holding video conferences and business meetings. So all these, though they sound a lot really, are a part and parcel of our discussion in the meeting and in the workplace world. So we need to be prepared, keep the points of courtesy and preparedness in mind, and attend to other people with the utmost consideration as far as possible. I hope I have been able to give you a brief idea regarding all these means and modes of interaction which are carried on a day-to-day basis in the workplace. So more of all this shall follow in the succeeding lectures. So we shall meet again, I hope, and before that, we have tried to interact regarding these issues. So with this, I would like to end the discussion for today. Thank you.